It is now 7 o'clock and welcome back to Morning Express. In case you're joining us now, it is the way it is, where we just look and reflect on certain things affecting our country. And in case you are joining us now, a quick reintroduction of the panel that we have. We have Honorable Farah Maalim, we have Michael Agwanda and Ambrose Weda. Just before we took the break, we were looking at matters corruption. And I think I'd left it at Honorable Farah Maalim saying that he is not satisfied with what is happening so far. Looking at Kenya Power, bosses being arrested. For him, he says it's still not enough, because if we reflect and look at the sugar issue, we still do not have the culprits, as far as you're concerned, brought to book. But also, we had the cabinet reshuffle on Friday, and we had the likes of Lilian Omolo replaced with Francis Otieno. Lilian Omolo was a former PS for Public Service, and of course, we know the issues that have bedeviled the National Youth Service. We also have the likes of Director General Richard Dubai replaced with Matilda Sekwa. Again, this is to do with NYS. And you still do not feel like that is work in progress?
Well, this is, in my opinion, it's pure musical chairs. You really want to get my honest opinion on these things, you know.
What is it that you'd...
Hang on a minute. You really want to go for this, you have to see, you know, it is so simple, so easy to pick up a shipment from the source, you know? The way you do investigation from the source document in any accounting thing. This is the person who imported. This is where it went. That trail cannot take 6 months to be found out. It can take even 6 days. Within 3 days, you know that this is the person who imported.
You can trace it.
This is where he came and placed it. We had the majority leader in parliament saying that there's 1 million bags somewhere. Has anybody gone to arrest those 1 million bags somewhere? Ordinary Kenyan officers in the county government, I think in Homa Bay, is it Homa Bay, arrested some trucks. Yeah. Not the police.
Rodi Kopan.
Yes, it's not the police. It's very easy to follow these things. So what we expected is that within a day, the police will be there locking up those things. The next day, 3 days later, 4 days later, somebody's arraigned in court. You get my point? And the whole thing is followed. The trail is followed. But all we have right now is Minister for Industry being moved to wherever. If he was culpable, Minister himself, he gave a statement which said that there's no mercury in this. Another minister said there is mercury in it. Yes. Is it rocket science to find out if there's mercury in this sugar or not? You get my point? To find out what was the source of information of one minister or the other? And if they were wrong, or one of them was wrong, why not sack them? All right.
In your opinion, from your experience, what is going on? Are they hiding the culprit?
Yeah. I mean, this is just a joke. Look, I am not a fan of anybody. If there was an election tomorrow and Raila ran for the presidency, I would not support him. If Uhuru were to run for the presidency, I would not support him. And I don't think I'll even support Ruto.
Would you go for president yourself?
Hang on a minute.
Because at this rate then...
If Ruto were, all those things.
What about me?
Whether, I don't know, you served in Sony, so I think you have a problem too. This country, this problem of corruption will never be solved until there is a fundamental revolution in the political, setup itself. The people rising up and saying, we don't want any of these elites, and picking up a very good person who is known for that from the streets or from these university, offices, or from wherever it is, consultancy, or he's a lawyer like Weda, and then saying, this is the man who is going to sort out. And then he comes out and cleans up the system. This system has been rotten for 50-odd years. It will be rotten for another 50-odd years. And all these shenanigans you hear about, political tribes, this tribe, alliances, people running around all over the country looking for votes, and this are all, it's all the old stuff. We don't need that.
Okay.
And we will never, and this is, you see, the political class, the elite political class is so clever. They work together, and they also decide to divide the people together. You know what I mean? You think you're voting for your community, you're voting for an individual. You think you're voting against an individual, or a community, those two individuals are at the end of the day friends. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how politics has worked in this country.
Okay.
There has never been a serious ideological differences between any two major contestants. It's just a question of, you've had enough of it, you've been milking this country for too much, you sucked it, let me have my opportunity to suck it also.
Okay, and we'll come to matters politics, but let me hear from you, Michael Agwanda, on the question which Honorable Farah Maalim raises a valid point, that corruption has bedeviled this country for over 50 years. It's not the first time that we're seeing arrests. It's not the first time that we've had, so-called bigwigs being arrested, but the question is how it ends and whether they actually get convictions. And the previous excuses or reasons we have had from the DPP was lack of evidence, lack of sufficient information to ensure that the culprits are brought to book. Do you feel that this is any different? Because with the moving around, especially with the cabinet reshuffle on Friday, all we've done is basically just move a few people from here to another. Maybe, as Honorable Farah Maalim says, it's musical chairs.
I sit with humble Honorable Farah Maalim here, knowing very well that he served as a Deputy Speaker of the House, the most powerful seat you could ever find in Parliament. And as I hear him talk, I am wondering whether I need to now sink and go down there and disappear, never to be seen here, because I would have expected great hope and optimism from him who sat in those positions and were making decisions for this country. Unfortunately, he's at a level where he has no hope for this country, ultimately. And I don't know then what people like us that perhaps have never been elected and make decisions for this country will do or are supposed to do when a man who sat in those positions is saying, well, there's nothing going on in this country. No. To move forward, I strongly believe that this country can change. I remember very well what Kinoti said, the DCI director. And he said, previously, when there was not Kinoti, but the DPP, the new DPP, and he said, previously, there was no goodwill from above to have these cases be resolved and taken to court. But now, there is goodwill from above. Mike, that goodwill can only come from one person in this country,
the president,
and that is the president. If the president has changed, in my view, to see that things change for this country, I believe something can change. Remember, it is in this country where you go to the police station and the police station arrests somebody and puts him to jail, and he says, why are you not removing this guy, or why are you not taking him to court? And he says, oh, there's order from above. Now, that order from above permeates through the executive in this country. It permeates through the DPP. As much as we may think that these are independent institutions, by law they are, but they do not operate independently because the ultimate appointing authority is the president, and they have to pledge their allegiance to the president. So if the president does not have a good will, to make sure that the corruption in this country is stamped out, we will be singing, and it will be musical chair, as Honorable Farah Maalim is alleging or is saying. But if he has a goodwill that he wants to leave a legacy in this country, a legacy of stamping, for now,
you feel there's goodwill so
now,
far?
I am starting to feel that there's a goodwill to fight corruption in this country with the kind of things that I'm seeing.
All right.
I am a little bit optimistic that this can happen. I am optimistic that President and Honorable Raila-Uhuru are coming together without pulling apart on this matter, perhaps might give us a little light at the end of the tunnel. If it was just the President and Honorable Raila is also pulling on the opposite direction, we will be talking about you're crucifying our community, you're crucifying our son. We've not heard of that. Jamong was taken to court just a few days ago, and you know what? The members of parliament came up and said, let the law take its course. Let him be investigated, and if found to be culpable, let him be jailed for that reason. That was a good statement from leaders that often, and in the past, will say, you are persecuting our own, and we will not give you votes.
Okay, I'll come to you, Honorable Farah Maalim. I know you want to respond to that, and I'll come to also the issue of the handshake and pulling one side to the other, because like Honorable Maalim mentioned, there's a question of ideology. But let me hear from you, Ambrose Weda. Do you feel there's goodwill from the top, or is this just another...
I have said it and I repeat, the president is angry, and it is the anger that the country needs. And he is trying to do the little that the law allows him to do. You saw that he went to the DPP who had security of tenure and persuaded him to say, my brother, even if it means I'm making you cabinet, please come. Here it is. We want to get somebody here who we will make angry also. And that happened. So you can see that there's anger, and that anger is the goodwill we need, and then the DPP is also acting. It is only that now other people, they want the president to be mad, they want the DPP to be mad so that they act insanely. Insanely here means they want them to hear allegation in the morning and by 10 people are arrested. That would be a celebration for the culprits. Why? Because if I arrest you without evidence,
you'll get away.
Obviously, you'll celebrate, you go to court, you get your bail. Then when the evidence comes, because witnesses have to be brought, they have to give evidence. There'll be nothing and people will be coming out. And eventually the same people will be suing government for compensation. They'll be saying this was basic witch hunt. That is why there must be due process. There must be evidence. That is what is taken to the DPP. They say, I looked at this, whether did this, whether brought this kind of sugar, and they did this, and they did this, and did this. This is where we think he's culpable. Prosecute him. But if they just say, arrest people, arrest, we will fill up the coast. But our judiciary is also very independent. And they will release, and they'll have no apology. So please, let's not frustrate this by trying to push so hard that things are done wrongly. That will frustrate the very important. I think the goodwill is with the president.
All right.
And his
Honorable Maalim.
You know, I was in the 7th Parliament, the first multi-party parliament since the 60s. And there was a we bring in what do you call private members' motions. And the olden days, it was like, if you're not from the government, the constituents did not elect a member in KANU, then of course they don't get development. But then it's not so easy for a minister to rise up on the floor of the House and say that we cannot undertake these projects because the member of parliament for that constituency is not from KANU. So what they used to do is to say that, yes, we will do these things, but when funds are available, which essentially meant we'll never do it. You know what I mean? When funds are available. The process, the modality, the procedure for establishing how funds should be available is not a straight, what you call, formula that is national, that you can literally say, yes, funds are available today. It's for the Treasury and the government of the day to decide we can make funds available or we cannot make them available. Right now, and that was one way of defeating any possibility of there being developmental projects in opposition areas. The way to defeat any judicial process, bringing corrupt culprits to book in this country, is to say, let's follow due process. Tell me, where did we have those patients follow due processes? And my friend, my learned colleague here, can say that we then went through all the process, learned friend, we went all the process, and now the way we did it in the case of so-and-so, the way we did it in the case of so-and-so, the investigation took 3 months, the investigation took 4 months, it took 6 months, but we ended up getting this big fish. Where in the history of this country do we have that? So we have never had it. No, yeah, I'm telling you.
So are you suggesting that maybe there should be a shortcut taken? If we follow due process, we'll not get to the end of it?
Look. If you make a mistake today, the due process will be followed, and before the end of the day tomorrow, you'll be in police, and 3 days later, you'll end up in, well, less than 24 hours. Why did we put up the limit of having somebody incarcerated for no more than 48 hours without formal charges being preferred against that person? It's a constitutional provision. Why? Because the process can work fast. The process has got to be concluded. It's possible. Now, let me come back to what happened. Mahathir Mohamad came back in Malaysia as the prime minister. And in 2 weeks' time, he bagged $52 billion that was stolen from the country. That is 5 years of our ordinary revenue that he bagged in
2 weeks.
Exactly, less than 2 weeks. And he took his former predecessor to court. And he's going to end up in jail because he stole. Now, are we being shown something similar to that? Does somebody come up and say we will wage a war on corruption and then we begin seeing the fruits because the fruits can be seen immediately? No. Let me come back to what my brother thinks, that as a former deputy speaker, I failed to do something. There is, intellectual as you are, professional as you are, let me explain to you people something that is basically the way our system works. Parliament is a lawmaking body, and it has three functions: representation, oversight and scrutiny. It does it all the time. For example, when I was there, I chaired, presided over very, very interesting fundamental debates on issues of corruption. For example, the maize that was imported from, I can't remember, South Africa or Mozambique, which was aflatoxin laced. And at that time, the Ministry of Agriculture, that docket was in my side of the divide, ODM. And the claims that the committee was making was both against the minister as well as the leader of that particular, who was the prime minister at that time.
Maybe to save
time.
And
I gave him, hang on a minute.
Did you get to the bottom
Yes, we got to the bottom of it. Yes, we got to the bottom of it.
You got the culprits?
The culprits, who is supposed to arrest the culprit now? It is the executive. We don't have powers to go and arrest you. We don't have powers to go and investigate this thing where the parliament can do that report. They did that report. I remember we did reports, so many reports, including one time when a minister in the office of in the Ministry of Defense, there was a report that came to us from the American ambassador that was debated very loudly. And I chaired, hang on a minute, I chaired that particular session. And I made sure that we get to the bottom. So I kept on asking the minister, Minister, give a responsible answer to this House. As a chair, I had that responsibility to make sure that we don't get any show debates. And drugs were being moved using government equipments, including military trucks. And that claim was there. And the minister came out and said, look, I've heard also that. There's nothing I can say. In other words, it's admission. What did happen? Nothing happened. What can Parliament do beyond that? It cannot do anything beyond that.
So in your opinion, what needs to happen? Is it the executive?
In the seventh Parliament.
Is it the executive that is not doing their work?
The executive has to do its work. The
Judiciary. What would be the work of the executive in this case? Because again, as per the Constitution...
Can I give a suggestion right now? One big suggestion I can give. For example, in this, in the police service, and then there's a police oversight. That police oversight is supposed to both make sure that there are two bodies. This is a commission, two commissions. It's supposed to have a dual way. One, to oversight that the police are not...
They don't work against...
They don't work against the spirit of the law, and they don't basically, take away the civil rights, you know what I mean, the constitutional rights of Kenyans. By doing the wrong things to them. There has to be a provision to make sure that that oversight itself covers the work of the police, such that if the police do not do the right job and do a shoddy job in an investigation, there's a certain accountability. That commission is not supposed to be just looking at who gets appointed and who gets transferred and who gets, like a Volundi's commission. You get my point? This is all that they talk about. Whether they will have a promotion, their role in promotion, their role in appointment, their role in
there should be accountability.
They have to be able to make the IG accountable for the expectations of Kenyans. You get my point? And then pack up that kind of a commission with the likes of Reverend Joya, you know what I mean? With the likes of the people who are real crusaders against this, who cannot be in any way influenced or compromised, and there are many of them. You get my point? The same thing, appoint Reverend Joya tomorrow as the chairman of the Kenyan Anti-Corruption, EACC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and tell me what's going to be the results in less than 2 weeks. So when you go appointing the likes of Weda, my good friend, to some of those institutions.
No, we have Wabukala, Reverend Wabukala is in charge of the EACC. Empress Weda, solutions for corruption and maybe just weighing.
By the way, I offered myself one time, I said, the only job I'm willing to take from the government, I don't want to become a cabinet minister, nothing. There's one job I would love to perform pro bono, honoraris, gratis. And that is the chairman of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Yes. All the job of Kavulundi.
Okay.
And
you will tell us what you do differently.
I think my friend is very bitter about the 40 metric ton sugar of his friend, which is 9 months at the port. That I think is very bitter about. But it should have gone to court.
It's not. He's not. By the way, he's not my friend.
Let me tell you.
He's not my friend, and I'm not
Whoever
bitter about
he is.
anything. You see, it's called argumentum ad hominem in law. You see, you instead of facing the substance, or what you call the facts in issue, you go to another area and say, oh, because you lost the election, or because so and so.
Yeah,
You know, those kind of things are very low for a lawyer to use as an argument.
Of judiciary we have, very firm, very strict,
independent,
and independent. This is a judiciary that would nullify a presidential election on technical things. So if you just gather evidence roughly because you are in a hurry to fight corruption, you are basically assisting the culprits to be cleansed by court. So let us also support and encourage, as we say, due process ought to be followed.
What are the examples? Give us examples. Where due process was followed and big
You have seen the people of Kenya Power have been arrested?
No, I'm talking about arrested, due process, and convicted. Because they will still might go free. You get my point? You're telling us right now, if you don't do the right job, then they will go free.
No.
Show us where you did the right job was done and people did not go free. And big wigs are serving in jail.
The Constitution itself gives you you are innocent until proved guilty. What makes you be convicted is evidence that has been presented. If there is no evidence,
So there's never been evidence.
But Empress,
there's never been evidence.
As much as we're waiting for evidence, let's take, for instance, the contraband sugar.
Yes.
Isn't it very easy, and isn't there a paper trail that can lead us to, first of all, who the culprits are? Secondly, those that imported contraband sugar, because not all the sugar imported is contraband.
Yes.
There is contraband sugar.
Which is massive.
Which is massive. And isn't it, what is it that would stop the investigating agencies
let me now shock you from when you sit here, and the moment you say contraband sugar, you are simply saying sugar.
Illegal sugar.
Sugar which has been brought in without paying duty.
Correct.
Once it has come in, it means some sugar has just come in, even it has not been documented. That's why it is contraband.
But surely, how can sugar come from wherever it can?
You are then saying, let's go to the border, let's arrest people at the border. But at that time, the sugar is not there. That's why it is called sugar. Then there is the raw sugar. You get it? That is the sugar that you will get. This is the raw sugar which was brought, and it is legal to bring the raw sugar and then reprocess it and sell it. Oh. Then there is the contaminated sugar.
Yes, let's not mix issues here.
Yes.
If we just take contraband sugar,
yes.
Let's just take contraband sugar,
yes.
for example. Forget about that.
Yes, take contraband.
That
yes.
has laced with
yes.
mercury and all that.
Yes.
But if we take illegal sugar,
yes.
it's coming in tons.
Yes.
Surely it passed through a port.
Yes.
It is very easy to identify which port that was. It is very easy to identify which ship that was. It is very easy to identify where the original originated from.
Now, let me, from the little rumors I've had, it comes by road from Kismayo.
So,
and just a minute. I hear. I'm not saying I know. I'm saying I hear rumors from the industry. It comes by road, therefore it comes through the border. The borders don't have cameras. And even if there are cameras, the lorries are sealed. You would not know that this is sugar. That is the contraband one. The ones that come through the port, they are rarely contraband. You get it? Because the documentation is such that you can hardly pass without paying duty. There must be some elements.
I find that hard to
believe me. That's why when the Gazette notice says you can now bring duty free, then now people come in.
For that number of, for amount of sugar that essentially came into the country, which was tainted, which was wrong, you needed 10,000 trailers. 10,000 trailers. Do you know how much the port of Mombasa, Kismayo handles in a day? 200 tons. The ships that are sunk in there. No ship can come in there. It's only boats, small boats that come in there, that can fly between the Middle East and that. 10,000 metric tons to move it through the border. You're talking about, I don't know how many vehicles are. 10,000 vehicles to move that kind of thing. And you see, this is the kind of stuff. Here is people who are intellectuals, but just because they are on a side, And they don't want people to get to the bottom of these things. And they get jobs here and there. So they look for all sorts of very cheap excuses like the one they did right now. We're telling them, okay, here's the sugar. The importer is saying, look, the retailer is saying, I bought from this wholesale. The wholesaler is saying, I bought from this, what do you call, importer. And the importer is there. They don't go there. You know what I mean? Because we have a saying in our language. A leopard was told, your caps were trampled on by camel. Camel or elephant, something. And the leopard said, no, it's not camels who trample on my caps. It's the goats who trample on my caps and kill. Because then he can go and kill the goat and eat.
Okay.
So because they're big people up there, nobody can touch them, then you go and look for these small guys who are out there who basically are doing small trading here and there. And those are the cases that will fail.
Okay. On Michael Agwanda.
Yeah, for the sugar case, I think I totally agree with my brother Marlin. You cannot say that the sugar, as my brother is saying, that a big chunk of it came from Kismayo and came through our borders.
Say big chunk came from
It said by rumors,
I said contraband.
Contraband
sugar, which duty has not been paid.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
The majority of the sugar, about 80% of the sugar came from the port of Mombasa. Literally came in the full eye.
That is not contraband. That one is duty-free.
That is the tainted sugar. That's the sugar people are talking about.
It is tainted sugar.
Differentiate the three categories. Tainted,
now he's going on legal semantics to run away from.
Let's hear from Agwanda, Michael Agwanda.
Statement. It is in record that some of this sugar, it has been tested and it is not found to be fit for human consumption. It was taken to Parliament and the committees listened to all the people who brought their evidences to Parliament. The Parliament wrote a report and it took it to the full House and the full House rejected it. But I like the one question that the Speaker Muturi asked, is this sugar fit for consumption or not? They were not able to answer that question.
Absolutely.
Now, Mr. Weda, if Parliament investigating team cannot answer one fundamental question of whether the sugar is fit for human consumption, then on what basis were they investigating this? Because the sugar was already in their warehouse. The sugar is actually being sold on the street. And the sugar, a big chunk of it, some of them are at the police station, some of them are at the warehouse being guarded, some of them were being taken to Diwa Sugar and were nabbed by the citizens themselves in Rodikopan. The question that we are asking is if we imported this sugar, whether it's contraband or whether it is laced with mercury or whether it is laced with copper, whatever it is laced with, where is it and who imported it? And can they verify this individual and bring them to book? Now, if we are questioning the legality of that sugar that is in this country, then who brought it illegally? And if it was brought legally, then why is it that we're getting reports that the sugar is not fit for human consumption, while those who brought them, no one of them has appeared in court? That is a fundamental question that we must ask. And it is not about due diligence in this case. It's about sugar that has been found by Ministry of Health. They tested it and they realized that it was not good for human consumption. And the question that everybody's asking, if it is not good for human consumption, then why can't you bring it and destroy it so that we don't put our hands on it?
Secondly, where did it come from? The more
time they buy with this sugar thing, the more people are going to consume it. And then the government is going to spend more money in treating these very people who are very poor and are having NHIF that will suffer from this disease as a result of the bad sugar. But I totally agree that sugar barons are very powerful in this country. It will take the president to crack the whip for this.
How do you want him to crack the whip?
The only way to do it...
What else does he need to do?
If they can be arrested by askaris in was it Kapani? Rodikopan. If they can be arrested by ordinary county askaris in there, you ask yourself, what were the police doing?
Only way to do it, Mike, your question, is to determine the sugar that is not fit for human consumption and destroy it in public. When you do that, a guy will not import. If he's going to spend, I mean, I heard him say that, you know,
That will deal with the sugar, but what about the culprit, the person who's bringing it in?
If you imported sugar worth 5 billion and it has gone through the drain because it was spoiled, you will never try again to import.
You'll never try again, but I get away with it.
You should
because
still
at the end of the day, I should be doing time.
No, nothing will be lost. Only small people will suffer. But all the big guys here, because the big guys and the politics are all intertwined. So when you're looking at it, you don't know who you're looking at, who's brought this sugar.
Okay.
So the point I'm trying to tell you, is that, we're talking with a lot of English. Lugha mingi Kiswahili, kizungu mingi na maneno mingi. The ukora is there. You can see it. You get my point? Watu wakiona wanasema pana. No, you see, you can see this is white. But then when you look at it and you see the Kabaka and the what they call and big guys and MPs and everybody there and the ministers, you know what I mean? And very big people say, no, that's not white, this is black. You know what I mean? And you still think you can go and convince the
okay, Honorable Maalim, just to save on time, I need your closing comments as we wind up. Your closing comments on how this needs to be dealt with.
Look, my closing comments is that we have never been honest about corruption. Corruption and the Kenyan nation, post-independence Kenyan nation, are one and the same thing. And it's only a powerful, democratic electoral revolution that will change this when Kenyans do understand that their problem is that politics and business have meshed into one lethal, potent force. And it's the common man who is suffering. Until we take a common man out there who is genuine about how to get things done, then this thing it's self-perpetuating. Because for you, for example, right now, people say, so-and-so is going to run for the presidency. And then you say, no, he doesn't have money. You get my point? So-and-so is running for, oh, that man has he has got a serious war chest, so he has a chance. Who is telling you that? An intellectual, a very well-educated technocrat, a lawyer, an engineer, a professor in the university will tell you so and so. So this thing has seeped into our psyche. It has owned us. That as long as you have resources, regardless of how you capture you got it in the first place, then you can become anything in this country.
Okay.
And then the common man, by the way, the very common man, also understands that. That's why when you go for elections, it's the amount of money. Whoever is able to outspend the other has a better chance of winning that.
Of making it.
So this is not a war that's going to be won, I think. What do? We talked about sugar, and a few days later, when the thing became murky about sugar and government was not able to come clear, we rushed again to lifestyle. You know what I mean? You get my point? So all these things we're seeing right now is just projections.
Okay. Whether your closing comments?
All I can say is that it's not as grim as my brother Farah Maalim says. Kenyans should never lose hope. Let us continue making our country better, making sacrifices, dealing with the issues of corruption. We should never lose hope.
Michael Agwanda?
I just want to remind the sugar barons and the thieves at the Kenya Power, the NYS, and the Ministry of Health, and many other places where corruption has been, that World Cup is over. We are back, and we will be watching on them, and we will be talking about them. If they thought that things were going to be put under the carpet because people were consumed on the World Cup, except my brother Weda, people are now back on the limelight, and they will be talking about these issues. I think what Kenya needs is action. Action and action and action. I like what the president did. This lady Omolo from, Jena, being replaced immediately as soon as she was taken to court. If everybody, even the people in Kenya Power, if they can all step aside so that the investigation takes place, let me tell you, people will start fearing meddling in the affairs of procurement and doubling and stealing money from the public coffer. I am optimistic, and I have hope that there could be light at the end of the tunnel in this country.
Thank you. That's a great place to wind up. Michael Agwanda there, Ambrose Weda, and Honorable Farah Maalim. Thank you for joining us this morning on The Way It Is. It is now 25 minutes to 8. We're going to take a short break, but do stay with us right here on Morning Express. We'll be right back with more stories making headlines and also lined up for you. What was your World Cup highlight? Would like to hear what that was, and I'll be reading through your comments as we go along. Do stay with us.
This is KTN News.